Oh, Wella, welcome back. We got Benjamin O. Davis Jr., and we've got a beautiful little write up about him. So let's get into it with our essential question. We're going to ask this for every story we read in Module 2, which is how did World War II affect individuals? Well, I'd like you to take a moment and let's highlight some of the important words in blue in this. We got World War II and individuals and how they were affected. So, do we see anything down here? Well, I see a lot of stuff having to do with World War II. I see soldiers, I see squadron, I see army, I see force, I see military, right? I see lieutenant, a rank in the military. I see fighter, right? All that good stuff to go with. Do you see any other stuff that has something to do with war? Take a moment to try and find it on your own. Ooh, nice work. So, as we go through, we've got our individual Davis. Let's highlight him green. And we're going to read about Davis now. And this prompt is going to guide us. Being treated as insignificant means you are being marginalized. How was Benjamin O. Davis seen here in young? Put the red above the young O. Davis's head, and seen here in uh, the top of his military career. All right. How was Benjamin O. Davis Jr. marginalized, and how did he overcome that marginalization? Write an essay answering these two questions using the text. Take the time to find the two most important words now, please. Nice work. So, directions. Read the text for the first time and annotate along the way. So, take a moment and do so now. And let's all go ahead and do it together. So, handout 1A, and you'll follow along with a card most likely, but I also have a little guide up here on the board. Benjamin O. Davis Jr. You're going to read this article to learn more about the individual. Oh, there's that word individual. So I'm going to put my light bulb there. It's important. Who fought during World War II about the concepts of equality and marginalization. And it seems like those two words are both connected here. Equality, marginalization. Benjamin O. Davis, Determined to Exceed, written by Alexis O'Neill. When Benjamin O. Davis Jr. took his first ride in an airplane as a teenager in 1926, his life was changed forever. I was completely overwhelmed, he said. We flew in an open cockpit airplane. About all I remember are the takeoff and the feeling of exhilaration at being in the air. And I remember a sudden surge of determination to become an aviator. The way to make this dream come true was through the military. Davis's father, who had risen from the enlisted man to an officer in the U.S. Army, urged him to apply to the U.S. Military Academy at West Point. There he would receive a high-quality education and enter the military as an officer. Davis's father believed that African Americans had an important role to play in the military and thought that his son could be instrumental in making changes there. Young Davis failed the entrance exam to West Point the first time he took it, but he was determined to succeed, and he passed it on a second try in 1932. Davis was the only black cadet at West Point. In those days, official military instructions claimed that blacks were inferior to whites and lacked courage and strong moral character. Upperclassmen at West Point wanted Davis to quit, so they enforced a silencing against him. For 4 years, no one talked to Davis. Throughout my career at West Point and beyond, it was often difficult to reconcile the principles of duty, honor, and country with the Army's inhuman and unjust treatment of individuals on the basis of race, Davis later said. His ability to endure the silencing made him strong. He never complained to his family, classmates, or superiors. Do we have any examples of marginalization here? Take a moment, please, and underline, or if you're using your computer, put the check mark by any examples of marginalization. Please take the time to do that now. All right. Davis's graduation in 1936 made headlines. He was the first African American to graduate from West Point in the 20th century, but when he applied to fly in the Army Air Corps, he was rejected. No African American units were to be included in the Air Corps because whites were unwilling to have African American commanders. In 1941, the War Department approved the formation of an all-African American flying unit, and after flight training at Tuskegee Institute in Alabama, Davis was placed in command of the 99th Pursuit Squadron. By 1943, he was leading his men in missions against enemy forces in North Africa and the Mediterranean. For his leadership during a bomber escort mission, Davis received the Distinguished Flying Cross. When the war in Europe ended in May 1945, Davis expected to lead missions against Japan. Instead, he returned to the United States to lead an all-African American 477th Bombardment Group. Before the unit was sent into action, the war in the Pacific ended. Unfortunately, another kind of war was continuing in the United States: segregation and the fight to change it. Substandard living quarters, schooling, and treatment of African American veterans appalled Davis. In 1946, the 332nd and the 477th moved to Lockbourne Air Base in Columbus, Ohio. For the first time ever, African Americans administered an Army Air Force base in the United States without the immediate supervision of white officers. Lockbourne became one of the best bases in the Air Force, Davis said. He continued his distinguished military career until his retirement in 1970, when he turned his talents to public service. Although Davis is proud of having graduated from West Point, he wrote in his autobiography, "I do not find it complimentary to me or to the nation to be called the first black West Point graduate in a century. We are all simply Americans. Surely, the unnecessary labeling of people by race, religion, or ethnicity does nothing to bring the many diverse groups of American society together." Benjamin O. Davis Jr. demonstrated his determination to succeed, his skill as a pilot, his courage in battle, and his patriotism in spite of many obstacles. He was able to make things better for those who came after him. And that's the end. So the prompt that's guiding you is: being treated as insignificant means you're being marginalized. How was Benjamin O. Davis Jr. marginalized, and how did he overcome that marginalization? Write an essay answering these two questions using the text, and you can put the text of that essay here and then read it out loud using Vocaroo. Please do your very best. You got this.